Welcome everybody to Snake Cinema Reviews. I am your host, Prince Elias, and today I am reviewing Class Action Park. It is a documentary on HBOMax, and quite frankly, had this documentary been on Netflix, where it's a wide range of viewers and subscribers, I feel like this documentary would have blown up like Tiger King, because this documentary is just as interesting, just as wild, just as crazy, and has a weird cast of characters like Tiger King. So that's the best way I can describe it. Had this been on Netflix or maybe even Hulu, where you have more people subscribe to because of the price tag, this would have blew up. We would have seen memes after memes after memes, and jokes online on Twitter and stuff about this documentary. Now, what this documentary is about, it is about Action Park, I believe in Vernon. I could be right. Don't kill me for saying the wrong city it's in, but it's called Action Park. It was around from, I believe, the 70s and 80s, and it was a water park, and basically it was like the craziest, wildest, some people say the best, but others would say the worst water park in the world, because it was run by a Wall Street guy. And when I tell you people died or was hurt at this water park, it was crazy. And the best thing about this documentary is that not only do you hear from people who actually went to the park back in the day when they were younger, and people who worked there, managers, lifeguards, but they reenacted some of their stories in the shittiest animation ever. But it works perfectly well with this documentary. It works with the mood. I mean, these people have lost limbs, people have lost their lives, people have lost their teeth going down a water slide, lawsuits after lawsuits, and he evaded so many of them because he was a Wall Street guy, so he knew how to scam everything, and cut corners and everything. He did not want to get insurance on the park, which insurance would have helped him out when it came to people getting injured, but he didn't want to do that. And so he created his own insurance company, made up an insurance company, made up all the documentations, and he was so annoying that the state just gave up trying to regulate him. The state gave up on his ass. It was like, you know what? We're just going to sell you the land, and whatever happens, happens. We cannot protect you because you refuse to get insurance. You refuse to follow regulations. So we're done. So the fact that the entire state gave up trying to keep him in line and just sold him the land and let him do what he do, that is wild and crazy to me. And and then the people telling the story was so nonchalant about everything. They was like, yeah, they made the bottom of the pool areas and the slides white so that the lifeguards could see if there's a body in the water, like someone dead or knocked out or drowned or whatever. And they was like, yeah, and the bumper boats were in water that was filled with oil and gas, and you could see snakes just crawling around in the water. I was just like, oh my gosh, thank God. Coming from someone who worked at a theme park and someone who was raised on theme parks and amusement parks and water parks, that was my family staple. When we go out of town, we usually go out of town where there's a water park, a theme park, or an amusement park. If it ain't got none of those, we ain't going. I think the only reason why some states or cities I've never been to is because they did not have a park anywhere in it. But I thank God my parents never took me to such a place, because I was alive back in at least the 90s. I don't think it closed until the 90s, and I was alive and well in the 90s. So my parents could have taken me there one summer had they probably was like, no, they probably saw the news stories about people getting decapitated and teeth missing stuff. They were like, hey, we're not going there. And not with our baby. So, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And when I think about, I believe Johnny Knoxville made a comedy movie based off this park, which is funny to me. I haven't even seen it, but I heard that he did it like a couple of years back. But to think if a park like that exists today, when people are happy, people sue Disney and Universal and Six Flags because they got food poison, or because they ate and went on a roller coaster, threw up and got mad and sued them. People sue over anything. So imagine a water park or a theme park where every day you don't know if you're going to survive. You walk through that gate, you pay that ticket, you pay that parking and stuff. You don't know if you're going to make it out alive. You don't know if you're going to lose a child or a spouse going to this park, going down a slide. You go down a slide and you don't know if you're going to come back with all your teeth and stuff, or like somebody got impaled with like some type of something. I forgot what it was, but like I think they survived, but like their stomach got impaled by something. And like one guy was on a water boat, and then another boat somehow leaped out the water and landed on his head. And I was in the way that the people were telling these stories with the animation was hilarious, but the way that the workers and survivors and managers telling the story was like, oh yeah, this was just fun. This is just a walk in the park. Like, this documentary was crazy. The mood was crazy because you hear about people dying and getting hurt, but they were like, yeah, that was just another Tuesday. Like, we just did what we did. Like, yeah, I saw a boat land on a guy's head and it was fun. Like, they were all laughing and smiling, and like nobody talked bad about the owner. Like, they still to this day love and respect this guy, and he did everything he could to escape facing consequences for all the cuts he did, all the scamming he did, all the just the crazy. Like, this dude, instead of testing these slides and these hills and these cliffs like normal people do with test dummies, he would just dangle $100 into his to teenagers' face and say, hey, if you go down this slide, I'll give you $100. And the teenagers did it, but they end up bruised and messed up and gashed and stuff. But hey, the one guy said, hey, I was $100 richer. So if they like it, I love it. If they happy and they still have respect for the guy and they not bitter and angry about it, why should I be bitter or angry about it? But this documentary was wild. It was fun. I felt guilty for laughing at certain parts because of the shitty animation reenacting how someone passed away, and I apologize. Like, I'm an empath, and hearing about somebody passing away, especially gruesome and crazy like a water slide, is just it breaks my heart. But at the same time, the way these people told the story, I was conflicted because I was like, damn, that's fucked up. But the way they told the story, I was just giggling like, oh my gosh, this really happened. Like, this park actually existed. And it shows how wild and crazy the 70s and 80s are, and how back in the day, those people didn't give a fuck. I'm glad I was born in 89 when people started to slow down on that not giving a fuck, because I probably would have been one of them kids jumping off a cliff in a waterfall, and then the lifeguard looking my body at the bottom of the pool. Like, let's just keep it real. But anyways, if you have HBOMax, I highly recommend you watch this. This documentary was fun. It was a good watch. It was an easy watch. There was no slow parts in it. I was entertained from beginning to end. And some of you may be conflicted with it. Some of you may finish the documentary and be like, F that owner, F those workers, they were wrong. But to be alive back in those days, you just had a different mindset. And that's something I had to come to terms with, especially when I'm arguing with older people now about things of today. Like, I have to remind myself, because I was born late 80s, raised in 90s. Even then, I'm like, yo, we all thought things differently back then. We all did things differently back. We all, in some form or way, was carefree back then. We went to these amusement parks and theme parks and didn't give a fuck whether it was safe for us or not. Like, I remember instinctively going to Disney World as a kid, and my parents taught me how to stand on my tippy toes without the workers realizing it, just so I could get on Tower of Terror. And I did it. Statute of limitations is over, so it was back in the night. It was back early when Tower of Terror first opened, so, and I'm still alive, so you see I made it. But I remember sneaking onto that ride when I was too short to be in that ride, and when that big drop happened, I almost flew out the chair. My parents had to hold me down because they knew they snuck me in when they weren't supposed to. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there, and I almost flew and hit the doggone ceiling of the ride. Like, back then, we just didn't give a fuck. And so, yeah, I can understand why people back in those days who went to that particular water park thought the way they did, was carefree, didn't give a fuck, and was willing to take the risks. They were willing to take the risks and lose teeth and legs and get impaled or have a motorboat land completely on top of your head. Like, but I digress. It was, like I said, it was a great watch of a documentary, very entertaining, and I really feel like had it been on a different platform than HBOMax, I love HBOMax, I recommend HBOMax, but I know a lot of people do not have it, but they have Netflix or they have Hulu, so had it been on there, it would have blown up just like Tiger King, because this documentary it gives me that Tiger King feeling, especially when you think about how crazy people were back in those days. Tiger King proved how crazy people are now, but Action Park shows how crazy humans have always been, basically. And so that's my review. Like, comment, subscribe. Have you seen Class Action Park documentary? If so, comment below, tell me what you thought, and I will see you guys in the next vlog. Peace.